Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. You're listening to today's inspirational message on the names and titles of Jesus with Devin Kelly.
Welcome back to the 5 Good Minutes podcast. We've been going through the names and titles of Jesus, and one of those that we see in Scripture is Mediator. Whenever we look in Scripture, we see that Jesus is called the mediator of a new covenant, which is a beautiful picture and idea of who Jesus is. But I think in order to unpack that and really understand what that is, we should first go off of a good working definition of what mediator is. So a mediator is a third party who is neutral and stands between two or more disputing parties that are disagreeing about something. And this mediator, their goal or their function is to bring agreement on a solution to the issue that is at hand. So you, like me, maybe you don't like conflict. In fact, I really hate conflict. Whenever anyone in my family or my friend group is arguing about something, I will often find myself stepping in to try and help resolve it and find a solution that is fair and good for everyone. And maybe you listening right now, you're like this too. Maybe you're referred to as the group mediator. And like I said before, Jesus is referred to as a mediator. So in Hebrews 9:15, for example, it says, "For this reason, Christ is the mediator of a new covenant, that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance, now that he has died as a ransom to set them free from the sins committed under the first covenant." So in this verse, we see that Christ is the mediator between the new covenant and the first covenant, which is awesome. And whenever we oftentimes hear the first covenant or the old covenant or the Old Testament, usually we understand that there are sections in the Old Testament that are referred to as the law. And when we read about Jesus in the New Testament, we see over and over again this idea that no one is able to carry out God's law perfectly, which is what he requires. So if Jesus is God and he is referred to as the mediator in Scripture, then you might be asking, who is the dispute between? See, here's the reality of the situation, is that there is a seemingly unreachable divide between man and God. God is perfectly sinless, and man is sinful. And God cannot become sinful to meet his creation. And then on the flip side, on its own, his creation cannot become perfectly holy to meet with him. And the law in the Old Testament shows us our need for Jesus, that no one can fulfill it perfectly. But Jesus, being God, he entered into human history and he did fulfill it perfectly, so that he could bridge the divide between man and God. And by Jesus being God, this means that he is not just a neutral third party. He is the one that we get to look to for right standing with God. But he also personally brings us to right standing with himself. And he doesn't want to just sit there and point out your bad stuff. He wants to rather give you his goodness and for you to spend eternity with him. His desire is to bridge the divide, not to further it.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.